This morning we're exploring this idea of wisdom and technology, and that passage in Proverbs is just a joy to read of as we go through this life, trying to figure out what does it look like to live as God's people in the world that He has put us. And we're exploring particularly what to do with the thing that is always present with us, that little phone in our back pocket and all the technology that comes our way. We looked at this a number of months ago, and we were exploring, if you've got that little flyer, we were exploring particularly how tech has impacted a generation of young girls. This morning, we want to think about how it has affected lads. And maybe in about 6 months' time, we'll also have a look then about how it's affected us adults, because it's had a hugely different effect on different groups. And I'd love to explore that. And part of this is figuring out, like, how do we even think about this phone? Like, is it good or is it bad? Like, how do you think about it? And actually knowing our place in God's story, because when God created the heavens and the earth and He put us here to fill the earth and subdue it. We're to create families that fill this earth, and then we are to subdue the world. We are to build culture and communities and do amazing things. And as the people are kicked out of the Garden of Eden, they start to develop all sorts of culture. There's farming, and there's music, and then there's that lovely verse of Tubal Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. And this thing that we have here, it's not made out of bronze or iron, but it's one of the tools that has been crafted in our culture. And actually, see this thing, like this thing should remind us of two things. Like, this is an expression of the creativity that it is to be made in the image of God. This thing's amazing. But should also remind us that this thing has been forged by sinful hands. That it's not as simple as, is it good or is it bad? Actually, this thing is both an expression of the creativity that it is to be made in the image of God, and also it has been shaped and made by sinful hands. So if we're going to figure out how to use it, we've got to get past the, is it simply good or is it simply bad? And yet the dust has started to settle. I don't know if you remember when this really sort of took off, but it was 2011 when this thing really got into the hands of most people, particularly in the Western world. Okay, 2011. Like, clock that. That's, hang on, help me. 14, thank you, Thomas. I would have loved you in my math class, Thomas, as a kid. I just kind of... 14-year experiment. Like, clock that. That's what it is. It's a 14-year experiment. And we're just getting now to the time where some of the dust is starting to settle on, well, what has the impact been? And this thing has opened up massive opportunities. Opportunities we could not have dreamt of when this technology started to come. But with it, it is beyond doubt now that it has had a serious detrimental effect on a generation. It's opened up amazing opportunities, and it's also had scary effects. The only plausible theory I have found that can explain the international decline in teen mental health is the sudden and massive change in the technology that teens were using to connect with each other. It's Jonathan Haidt. As the research has come to what has been the effect of the huge change in technology, the options it's opened are amazing. But it has had a serious effect on what it is to be in this culture at this time. And I'd love us to clock, do you know what, there is so much that is beautiful and creative about this, but there's also something that's really unnerving. And it's the fact that this technology has been married with the psychology that draws on addiction. This thing is designed specifically to draw people in. And the phrase that is used is time on device. You may know, I hope you maybe don't, that phrase is also used in the gambling industry for time on machine. The more you can keep people on gambling machines, the more money that you can pull from them. And with all the amazing and beautiful opportunities that this thing has been given, you've got to understand that it is laced with addictive design. So that every time you pause as you scroll, it's clocked how long you pause for. Everything that you click on, everything that you don't click on is watched and monitored, and then the algorithm will chew that up and spit you out stuff that will keep you on here. You with me? And so all the beautiful things that this gives, it is also laced with a design that is designed to pull us in. And we got to know that so that we figure out, well, how to use it. And one of my pleas is that whether we like it or not, this technology is here and it's going to shape the world. And if we simply opt out, well, then who disciples the next generation on how to use it? Actually, who's there to say, Jim, watch out for that? And so as we see this amazing expression of the creativity that it is to be made in the image of God, and we also see that it has been shaped by sinful hands and absolutely laced with addictive design, it's the world we live in. And actually we need Christians to help us navigate how do we walk through this world. And if we're not in that world, someone else is going to show the next generation how to walk through it. And so I'd love us to understand a little bit about what it is to be human and a little bit about this technology in order that we figure out, well, what does it look like to walk through this? We were in Genesis 1 with Tubal-Cain and the tools that he forged out of bronze and iron. Genesis is actually an amazing passage, amazing book to show us what it is to be human. And there's two things that jumps out. We are made for connection. We're made for connection between us and God and for each other. That beautiful verse in Genesis where he makes man and it says it's not good for man to be alone. Actually, we're made for connection. But we're also made for adventure. He says, go and fill the earth and subdue it and do amazing things. And then as you read the rest of the Bible and it's calling God's people to love God and love people and to protect those who can't protect themselves and to seek the peace and well-being of the community that God has called you and to look after your own household and to look after the church family and to look after the wider community. And it's saying, go and do amazing things in the name of Jesus and go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Part of the amazing message of the gospel is that we reconnect with God and we reconnect with other people. It's also go on this mad, crazy, costly adventure that God has for us in this world. And there's a beautiful verse in Ephesians 2, and it's talking about how we're saved and what we are then sent on to do. Let me just read Ephesians 2, verse 8. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves, it is a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. For we're God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Now get that. If you are right with God, it's only by grace. It's only by trusting in what Jesus did on the cross for us. It's the empty hands of faith that reaches out and receives this from God. It's all by grace. And Paul says, not by works. There's not a thing that we can do to earn our place in God. It's all a gift. It's all by grace. But then he says, we're not saved by works, but we are saved to do good works. For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God has prepared in advance for us to do. And it's like God has this amazing adventure for us to go on, and it is costly, and it is risky, and we will sacrifice. But it's His work designed for us to do. And I would love us to play with this, because technology has shaped a generation in slightly different ways. Because all of us long for that connection, and all of us long for that adventure. But for some of us, it's connection and adventure, and for some of us, it's adventure and connection. And it turns out that the technological world has affected boys and girls in such different ways. And this is broad brushstrokes. This is not saying for every boy and for every girl, but it's talking about broad brushstrokes. And as you watch how technology has impacted the younger female generation, it is tapped into that longing for connection. And that's the one that we looked at last time. And if you weren't here for that, you'll get it on the church Facebook page, and how technology has offered a type of connection that often leads to isolation. But there's another way. And actually, boys have been hugely affected by the offering of adventure. And how this technology offers a type of adventure that can often strip away the real adventure of going on God's mission. And so I'd love to home in on that one this morning, and to understand that this is offering something. It's tapping in to a human longing that God has created within us, and can actually replace what God has designed for us. And so you will see the little flyers that you have. If you would grab those are going to be our roadmap for this morning. And I would love you to picture that for generations, there has been like a rite of passage for young men, like for generations. And it kind of goes something like this. You'll see it on the bottom of that flyer of as the young lad is young, and he's going out and he's doing all sorts of stupid stuff. He comes home black and blue and his knees are bleeding, right? And that's how you learn to do dangerous stuff carefully. Yeah. You boys remember the stupid stuff you did. And that was the rite of passage on how to learn how to do dangerous stuff carefully. You learnt your limitations. You learnt how to balance. You learnt that if care was not taken, there was a cost to it. And one of the things that social science have noticed in our generation is something happened in the 90s. That from the 90s on, we have become very operating in a sterilized environment where kids are kept physically really, really safe. That they don't learn to fall over, and so they don't learn to get themselves back up again. Do you know the, is it community nurse? What's the? Public nurse, that's the one, yeah. I remember having some lovely chats. Do you know whenever you go in and like you're filled with guilt because your children's legs are like they've been through war? And you're like, am I going to get reported? And I remember having a lovely chat with a public health nurse whose face lit up when she saw the scars. Because she was like, do you know what really worries me? When kids come in with pristine legs. You want to see a kid from knee to ankle, it should be black and blue. It should be cut to shreds. Because that means it's learning. That means it's doing stupid stuff. And it's learning how to do dangerous stuff carefully. That was one of the rites of passage of the bleeding knees that should happen. There's another one that should happen as a young lad starts to find his voice Sometimes he forgets when he should speak and when he should listen. And part of the course of growing into a young man is that sometimes you can get away with stuff that you shouldn't get away with your brothers and sisters and your mum and dad. And then you go out into the playground and you go out into the community and you say that ridiculous stuff to the wrong person. What happens? You come home with a gorgeous black eye. And do you know what you learn? You learn to wind your neck in. You learn that sometimes it's better to listen than it is to talk. You learn that actually I can't talk like this around normal people because there's consequences. And actually it's a community service. You learn that there is an appropriate way to talk to people. And the people who I love dearly tolerate this, but it won't be tolerated out there. And so the kid learns that their knees will bleed, their eyes will be blackened. But there's another one, that as they start to get a little bit older again, and they notice the fabulous looking girls in their class, do you know what they do? They know she's like 3 leagues ahead of me, but I'm going to take the risk. And I'm going to ask her out. And do you know what's going to happen? She's going to break my heart. And when she breaks my heart, do you know what I'm going to realize? I'm going to realize, okay, turns out I've got to brush my teeth. Turns out I've got to wash. Turns out I've got to comb my hair and try and make an effort. And then you take a risk again. And she's still far too out of your league, and she breaks your heart until you realize, okay, I've actually got to do something. And that's the process. Where he comes with his bleeding knees and his blackened eye and his broken heart. And then he starts to find his place as a young man, and he's starting to work out how the world works. And he's so confident at 20 years old that he has the entire world sewn up in a button, and he knows exactly how things should work. And if everyone would just listen to him, the entire world would be solved. And then he meets other lads who are smarter and better read and better experienced. And he's like, okay. They believe different stuff and they're not stupid. Maybe I've made it too simple. Maybe actually there's more to understand. Maybe I have to balance some of these out to figure out actually what is the world really like, because I thought I was right and everybody else was just stupid. Or it turns out I got to balance my views. I got to try and understand things from another person's perspective. I got to work this out. And you take those 4 together, where he has bled his knees, and he has had his eyes blackened, and his heart broken, and his views balanced. And you get someone who can carry themselves as a man. What if you took all those away? What if you replaced them with something else? What do you think this thing would do to a generation of young men? Actually, play this through. Because we are built. And when I'm talking about boys, I want you to remember this is true for boys and girls. It's just especially true for boys. This is true for boys and girls, but especially for boys. Imagine if you took that young lad and you put him in an environment where he wasn't allowed to go out and run and bleed his knees. And he wasn't allowed to go out and do stupid stuff and learn how to do dangerous stuff carefully. Imagine if you protected him from all of that. But deep in his soul is a longing for adventure. And you keep his world so safe that he never has a need to hurt himself. That he never has the opportunity to get knocked down. And then you hand him a games console and say, tear away. And in that games console, he will go to war. He will conquer kingdoms. He will fight He will achieve. He will grow in competence. And online, he will be treated like a king. And that longing for adventure, that longing to learn how to do dangerous stuff carefully. And here's a child with perfect knees. And all his adventure, all his longing to strive and achieve and be competent and sharpen himself and improve himself is now in a games console. Picture the next one, where he's learning that he has a voice. And he's learning that his voice is powerful. And part of what comes with that is saying the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong person. Except that now imagine that you're online. And you say the most horrible thing to a person you've never met. And nothing happens. No one reaches through that screen to blacken his eye. It's just a comment that's thrown out there forever. Nothing happens. And so you go on another one and you say something even more horrible. And there's still no fist that comes through the screen. And the knee has never felt a scar. And the eye has never been blackened. And we can conquer kingdoms online, and we can say the most horrible stuff online at no cost. And then imagine there's the amazing girl over there, but on here there are companies and organizations that have filled his entire life with pornography. And they're 3 clicks away. 3 clicks. That forget about the lovely girl in the class. He has an entire harem accessible with 3 clicks. You don't have to brush his teeth or comb his hair. And he doesn't even have to try and find them because they are coming for him. Those organizations are on a mission to find him. And if they can get him to click, that's it. Because they will be appearing on his screen constantly. And why would you bother trying to take a risk of someone who would break your heart when you have thousands screaming for your attention? And then you get to an age where you're starting to figure out your place in this life and what the world is like, and you form some strong opinions. And so you go on YouTube. And you find out about those strong opinions, and then do you know what YouTube will do? To keep you on the screen, it will feed you more of what you want to hear. And it will feed you the stuff that you already believe and enjoy, and any other opinion, it will only send the stuff that is utterly nonsense to make you angry about how stupid the other side is. Do you know what it's called? It's called an echo chamber. Where imagine being in an echo chamber where you say one thing and it just keeps bouncing at you. It's just one thing that's been said, but it just keeps bouncing at you. And you only ever hear one view. You only ever hear one position. And you do 100 hours on YouTube and we believe we're an expert when really we've been sitting in an echo chamber for 100 hours. Being told what we already believe and being presented the opposite view in such a ridiculous way that we think, oh my goodness, they really are so stupid. And we start to believe that we are the answer to all the world's problems, and if only people would listen to us, and everybody else is stupid. Imagine that. Imagine that we swap our bleeding knees to go and conquer online kingdoms. Imagine that we swap our blackened eyes and become the trolls, saying the most horrible things with no consequence. Imagine that we swap, taking the risk with that beautiful girl and getting our hearts broken for a life of pornography. Imagine we swap, balancing our views and talking to people who take a different view and learning how it is to see things from another perspective, that we understand it better, to sitting in an echo chamber, being convinced of what we already believed, with an inflated confidence in our ability to read this world. Like, imagine that. Imagine it. And do you know why it's happened? Because people make a lot of money if they can keep us on this screen. People make a lot of money if they can keep us on that screen. And the more knees that bleed, the less time people are on this screen. And the more black eyes that happen, the less trolls there are. And the more balanced views there are, the less people want to sit in an echo chamber. And the more broken hearts, because people are going out and actually asking, the less the porn sites are visited. Like, I'd love you to pause for a second. Does that not break your heart? Like, does it not break your heart? Now, you put all those four together. Do you know what it's called? I hate that there's a name for it. You put those four together. Do you know what it's called? It's called failure to launch. These boys were built for adventure. These boys were built to go out and do crazy things in God's name. Do you know what failure to launch is? When instead of going out into the real world and bleeding your knees, you live in online kingdoms where you destroy and build and do this and do that. And you're 25 and you're still sitting at home playing games. And you've left education. You haven't pursued a job. There's no girlfriend, there's no marriage on the scene. We become keyboard warriors. We become political commenters who can't fix anything in our life, but we could fix the world if people would just listen to us. There's a name for it because it's become so common. It's called failure to launch. These young men that were supposed to be missiles sent out into the world never launch because they've been consumed. The adventure that they were built for, the good works that God has prepared in advance for them to do, have become part of someone's business. Actually, I'll just keep them on here. And I would love us to sit with it. Because our community as a whole is starting to clock this 14-year experiment with all the amazing things it has brought, has run riot through a generation. And I'd love us to play. Like, what do you want to do about it? Do you know, I talk about this a lot to a lot of different groups of people, from kids this height to granddads this height. And sometimes the hardest group of people to talk to are Christian parents. because they don't know what's happening. And they think, that would never happen, my kid. I do want you to know what's happening. Because I sift through a lot of this when the kid has been in it for 10 years, and it would break your heart what happens. And I would love us not to wait until the bottom has fallen out of a kid's life before we start to think, what do we do about this? And I would love us to play with what do we do about this? And if tech is in the home or is coming into the home, can I give a few pleas? 1, talk about it. Let's see this thing. It's not whether it's good or bad. This phone is a testimony to the creativity that there is in the image of God. That's amazing. This thing has also been shaped by sinful hands and is laced with addiction. Please have that conversation. Please have the conversation that if we're going to bring this into our home, we've got to do this together. And we've got to talk about it. And we've got to monitor it. Because there are some of the cleverest people this world has ever offered trying to get to your sons. Let that sit with you. They are trying to get to your sons. So have that conversation and agree that we will talk about it and we will explore it and we will do this with a fair bit of fear and trepidation, but we'll do it together. Second, boys are built for adventure. And if you rob them of the chance to do stupid stuff, if you rob them of the chance to do dangerous stuff and learn how to do it carefully, they will look for adventure somewhere. I would plead with you, don't create such a sterile environment that the health nurse wonders, where's the scars? Let them do dangerous stuff and teach them to do it carefully. I'm not saying let them go out and do dangerous stuff dangerously. Let them do dangerous stuff carefully. And if you smother that instinct, they will find it online. And so this is not stop doing the online stuff. It's allow that spirit of adventure to happen in a real world where they get to do stuff. I don't know if you... do you know the actor Kevin Costner? I really like his movies. I like him. Do you know he grew up in a Baptist church? And he says he can remember they were doing a building extension. Imagine. And he says he was a wee boy, and he was on site, and he wanted to join this adventure that he saw happening in front of him. And so one of the older men, they were building the sort of stage for the choir, and they built the frame and they popped the plywood down and they threw down a line of chalk and put it, and the older man said, there you go. Many nails as you can along that line. Can you imagine what his fingers and thumbs came back like? He says he sat there every Sunday when that place was built, and he would watch his mum and his auntie sing their heart out. And he was king of the castle because he knew that stage would never fall. Because he built it. Isn't that lovely? That we push them and we let them do the adventure and teach them how to do dangerous stuff carefully, because if we don't, they will find adventure somewhere. Number 3. When tech comes into the home, This is probably my strongest plead. If tech goes into the bedroom, the game is up. If tech goes into the bedroom, it's a question of whether the habit turns into an addiction. That's all it is. If tech goes into the bedroom, you're done. And I want you to imagine, if this is a young man's life, I want you to imagine this room filled with people trying to get at him. Do you know when you see drug dealers, I hope you don't see this in our schools, standing outside the school gate trying to get new business, yeah? And they're there trying to get new business. Well, if this is a young man's life, I want you to imagine this room filled with people in the porn industry. And they're there, and they are trying to get your son. And the only gap between this entire room and him is 3 clicks on this phone. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, there's no such thing as a guarantee, but if there was, I will guarantee you, if that phone is in the bedroom, the porn addiction is a given. They are looking for him. They are trying to get through this phone, and it takes 3 clicks. If I can plead, all tech, TVs, games consoles, phones, if you put that in the bedroom, you're done. It's a question of whether the habit becomes an addiction. 4. I know you probably haven't picked this up from this talk. I actually love tech. Like so much of my life is infused with technology. And actually, I'd love us to be able to celebrate it. And the only way you will ever celebrate it is if you see the danger of it. If you do not see the danger of it, you will stop celebrating what this can offer because you will see a generation destroyed in front of you. If you take this thing seriously, you can actually celebrate it and enjoy it. And when it comes to, particularly for boys, and there'll come a time where they're asking for screens and they're asking for video games and they're enjoying TV, to not layer them up. And so if you have a time where you do entertainment, and maybe that's on a Friday night after Connect group, super. That's your time to do entertainment. And if that's the time that they normally watch a movie, and then they're asking for a screen or a video console, super. But in that slot, you're picking which one it is. You're not adding more entertainment moments through the week. Find a time where the entertainment stuff happens. And if a new device is coming in, it's, well, do you want to do that more than the one that you're already using? Figure out how much time you want to set aside for entertainment and don't layer them up. But if I could say, here's the biggest one. Our boys need an adventure. Wouldn't it be amazing to give them such a vision of adventure that everything else pales into insignificance? To give them such a vision of a God who has prepared good works in advance for them to do, and their job is to find those good works. Their job is to be raised to be men who take care of their home and their church and their community, who go to the nations and bring the wonderful news of Jesus, who take Carrickmacross Cross as their community and say, I'm here for the peace and well-being of this community, who look with eyes to see who are those who need protected, who can't protect themselves. Wouldn't that be an amazing adventure? That would be costly. that would need competence, that would take them on a crazy adventure they could never have believed in. Imagine an adventure where these young men are raised to do dangerous stuff carefully, to take risks, to make sacrifices, that the honor of Jesus would be spread in homes, in communities, across this world. I'd love to take a moment, because I don't know how this is hitting each of you. But I would love us to see, as a church family, there is a generation to protect, and there is a generation to inspire in God's ways. Can I take a moment, and then after the moment of silence, we'll pray together.